Okay, Brian?
I can hear you just fine, yeah.
What's that?
That's not.
I'm gonna try to turn the volume down. Maybe that'll help if I can figure out how to do that.
It'd be better for cell phone.
How to do that. When I have a car, I drive in there and say the heck with it.
Whatever.
Mm.
It's a new name. Everybody's getting new names. I'm not gonna be new. Want to get started? Without. I mean. Okay, call to order. Discussion action on January 24th minutes. Anybody have any motions or comments?
Somebody asking me a question? What was that?
As we're trying to get approval or discussion of the minutes.
Don't speak too loudly. It's say it normal. I can't understand. Even Art can't hear what y'all are saying. It's the quality is real poor.
We're just trying to.
I don't know what to do to make it better.
Can you hear me better, Sally?
Um,
Can you hear me better?
hear that, yes.
Yes, okay. Have to pass it around. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
What's that?
Can you hear me?
Vaguely. I hear there's loud. Everything is very loud. It's just all garbled. But anyway,
I'll make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes. I don't know if I can do that since I'm the secretary, but I'll second. All those in favor of approving the notes?
all in favor of what? Accepting
Approving the minutes?
accepting the minutes?
Yes.
The minutes. I really ought to go in the town and listen to this art.
Sign on.
Hmm?
Did you text him? We're trying to decide if we have a quorum, if you're not gonna be able to hear.
Oh. I'm awful sorry I can't hear, but I did hear just what you just said, but
Oh, good.
most of what you're saying I can't hear. It's all garbled, but it's very loud.
Is everybody in favor of the minutes, she said? Brandy is. Are you in favor of the minutes, Sally?
I'll accept the minutes, yes.
And the next item is new business discussion action on the reallocation of the hose washers. You guys want to chat to us?
You sure you want to hear this right now?
Yes. He's coming. Okay.
So Sally, this is Todd Pinio. Can you hear me okay?
I can say that again, please. What
This-
about,
Todd Pinio, can you hear me okay?
oh, yeah, I hear that. Talk slower and softer maybe, and then maybe I can hear it.
Well, I don't speak much softer, but I can try.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having us. So the first half of the page, and I know you have my right up here, but the first half of the page is history. So it's a history lesson. It includes the $14,000 that you approved back in excess of a year ago. And in the write-up, that large paragraph is repeat from the request back then. You approved that, selectmen approved that. However, it kind of dawned on us that the first thing we should do is give you an update on where that project is, because frankly, you probably don't get those every day.
Correct.
Right? So we did choose a manufacturer. The name of the manufacturer is Staber. We have not purchased it. And what, you can read the bullets there, but the bottom line is there was some friction between the vendor and the manufacturer, and we didn't know it, and we weren't completely getting the full story of what was going on with that manufacturer's product. And we kind of grew impatient eventually, several months into it, and not getting good answers from the vendor, reached out to the manufacturer directly and says, what's going on? Hey, Chevrolet, what's going on with height, right? That kind of conversation. And turns out that there's nothing wrong with the unit. The manufacturer has them available for sale. They did indicate that they were having some trouble with Groves, the vendor that we were talking to. We're trying to divorce ourselves from that and reevaluate the purchase. And at this point, we'd like to withdraw and tell you that we'll come back at a future meeting because that price has gone up. And we can't do it for the 14,000. And there's still some unanswered questions, and I don't frankly like the friction that we see between the vendor and the manufacturer. And I think all of us, it's fair to say we have probably more questions than answers at the moment.
So then you have problems with service.
Got all that kind of questions, you know, absolutely, Becky. And so we've kind of put that on hold for a little bit while we figure this out. But just to give you an update, we still have this on our plan. It's on our capital plan, but it's more in the order of $20,000 now. It's right at the very bottom of that page. So this, by way of an update, we did not rush into a purchase, and in hindsight, very glad that we did not. Right. So if you flip the page, or it's page 2. So now I'm going to start talking about the reallocation of funding. So communications has kind of cropped up for us as being an issue that we need to address. And one of the things that the TIF committee did, and here's another little bit of a step back and project update, is you did also fund a repeater project for us last year. So we replaced all of our equipment up on Bigelow Hill, if you remember that discussion. And that has worked fantastically. And the older equipment is in storage, waiting for a failure or a lightning strike or whatever. So now we have an actionable spare that we can use. So that's cool. But the communication problem that we want to address today is the portable radios. Chief, you happen to have yours on you? I forgot to bring mine in, but you know, we all carry portable radios. At least the officers and the full-time staff carry portable radios. Almost 24/7. They're never further away than the car. In this case, it's in the car. But usually I can swing my arms left and right, and you can put your hand on my radio if I'm awake. Usually, I know you've seen that. Both of you've seen that. Probably others, you know. No, we have plenty more than that, but we're asking for funding to replace 6 of those portable radios. And so they're the ones that we have are that we're asking to replace are older. They're a commercial series radio, kind of at the time they were purchased, a good fire service radio. They lack some of the newer features, things. Here's Ruth.
Yeah.
Everybody. They lack some of the newer features, things like intrinsically safe, right? So they can technically spark an explosion if you're in a bad environment. Think about Farmington, exactly that. They, because of their age, they're not as waterproof as they should be, not as waterproof as they could be. We've destroyed some equipment recently due to water intrusion, which you can't help doing at a fire, unfortunately. And so we would like to move forward with a purchase of 6 of these radios for the amount of $10,000. And we thought where we had stalled on the previous purchase. And that, we do want to revisit that with you someday, but for the time being, if you'd be amenable to taking 10,000 of that previously approved 14 and reallocating it to raises. So without reading every bullet point, it's all in there. Rudy, you happen to have it? If not, I have.
I do now. Thanks to my colleagues.
So do I. Hey, Rudy.
Almost did.
So Drew, to catch you off,
I apologize for my tardiness.
that's okay.
You can blame a judge in Somerset Court.
I
Telephone call.
The first page of this is completely about review and how we've done on you approved $14,000 a year ago for an automated hose washer for the fire department. This is an update on that project, and the purchase has not taken place.
I
And
see.
this explains why, and just giving the committee an update, right, which I think is the second page gets into reallocating a portion of that 14,000 to a different purpose.
That was about the radios.
That's about the radios. And so we've got, I happen to have the newest of the, I don't want to get technical, but the commercial series Motorola radios that we have and have had for 2 decades. I happen to have the newest one, is 2012 manufactured date. And I was surprised to find they had the newest, probably been replaced, right? At some point along the way. 2012, they used hard, they used every darn day, 365 days a year, unless I'm out of town, my radio is in use. Same with the chief, same with full timers and everybody like that, officers and full timers. So we would like to replace those. We do have some newer radios, so I don't want to mislead the committee. We do have some newer radios that aren't the commercial series, they're more of a general purpose radio, the cheapest carrying one these days. That is great for traffic control and some of these things, but it's not the commercial series Duncan underwater frontline fire radio that in this case the Motorola R series radio is what we would purchase. And bring a quote that I did not distribute to the committee, but like just under $16,000 a piece. Sorry, $1,600 a piece. I'll put that on top of the menu. And if you multiply that out by 6 and add a little for shipping, it's right around 10 bucks. So that's the request for you to support that. We'll revisit the hose washer thing. We'll get a little bit more information on some of the issues between the vendor and the manufacturer, and I'm not in a position to take anybody's word for that at the moment. So update and a request for reallocation, and wondering what your thoughts are on any questions. That's okay.
Say in the near future, we'll revisit, you're gonna come back, this isn't really a reallocation. This is why we're waiting for this, we know that. So my question is, because I'm questioning why we're reallocating, when you come in and ask for that money to do that, this other one is still. It already went by the select board and everything, but when you say. One of the ongoing problems I had, and pretty sorry, is I'd like to know what's coming down the pipe. And so you say in the very near future, for the hose thing, are you talking a meeting from now, you're gonna come back and want to be 14,000 plus 6,000? Or is it gonna be this calendar?
I hesitated to, and that's why the wording that you see, I hesitated to commit to that because it's been a year and I don't have all of the, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't have the answers from the manufacturer and the vendor that I feel like we deserved months ago. So I'm being a little bit non-committal on when we might come back. It is certainly at the committee's pleasure. You could just leave the hose washer thing alone and choose to allocate or not 10,000 for radios. You could certainly do that. I was trying to be conservative. I mean, because it's always possible we come back and say, never mind on the hose washer. We'll do that in 5 years or 3 years or 3 months. Or I'm trying to be non-committal on that because I don't have all the answers.
If the hose washers come up because we had money from ARPA or someplace, it's like everybody's picking things they'd like to do that, so you never top of your list of things you need to get.
That's probably mostly fair. It was on an ARPA list along with two other items. The selectmen chose to send two of those items to the TIF committee, and one was the hose washer. One was the repeater, and
Beautiful.
the selectmen ARPA that.
But we think, we just think.
The turnout gear came from rescue planning.
So you're gonna use that. There's a problem.
Oh, all firefighter gear is full of PFAS, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, they're gonna work that out of there someday.
Yours are state art.
They are, but they still have PFAS. I mean, that's just the state of firefighter gear and manufacturing, and if you think of the types of products that PFAS is in, one of the things they always say is firefighting foam. Right, well, what is firefighting foam that puts out fire? Well, it might be something you want in firefighter gear. And so they've got to engineer that out of the fabrics and the treatings for the fabrics. And frankly, the industry is only beginning to understand that and figure that out. And so our brand new gear has PFAS elements to it. We're not eating it, thankfully, so.
Since it's also a time question, I have another question on the reallocation of the radios. You have 20, you want to replace 6. When you gonna come back for the other 15?
Where does it say?
Only get one. You just ask me that, but I mean, they're not all commercial quality.
They're not. The commercial quality radios that we that can survive a fire. Frankly, there is about 8 of those that we have. We only need to replace 6 of them. We're going to pass some of them down. If you look, we're passing some of those down to some non-frontline duties, things like traffic control and things like that. We do have some newer. Between 2012, after about 2012, we couldn't buy the radio that we have. And so we couldn't really get that radio anymore. So we bought some lower quality ones that we're still going to use for traffic control and some of those non-frontline functions. But the 6 is enough for our officers and our full-time staff. And we've got a couple of openings to fill, but if you do the math, it really won't be more than 6. And we could go out and buy a 7th out of our budget. That wouldn't kill our budget, but 10,000 would kill.
Well, I was gonna ask about the
Yes.
budget, that's not, this isn't something that's into your budget,
Correct.
okay.
Not a $10,000 thing. There's equipment repair and replace kind of numbers in our regular operating budget. But the total for the year doesn't approach 10,000.
Okay.
So that if we decided we needed 7, we could go buy it easily. Likewise, to be fair, we felt like we'd ask the committee for 6 because it was the appropriate number. We didn't want to get into a situation where we're putting one in a drawer for another day. That's save the money in the bank, right? And we didn't want to under ask, so 6 felt like the right number for us, and we actually debated that around quite a while. But I don't see any combination of moving people around that gives us more than 6 between full-time staff and officers. Oh, it would be 6. Because frankly, something you know, it's the Zen diagram. Overlapping circle.
Right.
So should we? Something to think about is, should we take the hoses off the table and come back some days we want to start over?
That's the committee.
Otherwise, we're meeting
It's the committee's pleasure.
something that we voted on, so we're to do now being called a reallocation.
That was my words. The committee can choose to do it as a new up or down thing.
What do you think?
I'm just trying to think of it procedurally. I mean, it does seem like a new request. I understand the notion of sort of, well, you sort of already requested money for this group. So if we just have it, decide not to get licorice, we want to get, donuts instead. That should somehow be okay, but I mean, would it be? it just seems cleaner to like treat it as a new application to me. I don't know.
I agree.
Other people, I can't remember that whole list, but we might have turned somebody down because we only get these things in, and now we're taking a new thing in. Doesn't seem like-
I guess the reason for reallocation was really, we'd like to see the committee support it. We'd like to see the committee not turn it down just because of lack of funds or money. We have no idea what your balances look like, what your potential looks like in terms of other people coming in. Do you have $1 million in the bank or 5,000? We really would like to see the committee support the radios. We offered up a way to do that. If you could find it in your budget and in your funds and your hearts to support both, great. It's a committee's choice. It really is. I was trying to find a way to not cost you more money, at least at this time.
I've been writing this.
I mean, treat it as two separate things. That is your pleasure. I'm understanding. I painted it one way. If you can take the brush out of my hands and paint it anyway.
Oh, I'm wondering if washing those. There's a way it comes back as a whole new thing in that.
Because of the price change, that was part of the calculation.
You look like you want to say something.
No, I mean, I just, what would be the problem with saying this is an application for these funds? It sounds like a good application. It sounds necessary. It's not terribly expensive. It's clearly for the good of the order in terms of, some of the things we've done. In somebody's back of somebody's building or something, it's hard to argue that house important is this sort of affects, fire prevention is for everybody. So but what would be the problem with just treating this as an application, standalone application on its own? We recommend yes, the selectmen either adopt it or don't adopt it, and then I don't think we've ever decided what happens to approved grants that aren't used. I mean, we could reach that at some point if we're, and they might say, well, it's now 19,000, not the 14,000 or whatever we allocated. I don't know, we approved. But would anybody have a problem with just treating it as a new application for this use and not tying it to the previous authorizations? I don't know, there's something about it, it's just, so like, in the days when I was in the House of Representatives, some of the most amazing things in the budget occurred between sort of 11 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock in the morning, and
That's when this was written.
well, wait a minute, when I went to bed, this is what the budget was. I woke up, and it was
Right.
something else. Whereas we just said a whole new ballgame. That budget was voted on, it was defeated. This is a new budget. And we're gonna be voting on it at 8 o'clock this morning, you like it or not. I don't know. To me, it's just cleaner to say, this is the application we have, this is what it costs. Can the TIF committee make recommendations to the board of select persons if they go ahead and fund it? Not, I'd entertain a motion like that, and I don't think it has to be tied to whatever we decided before, but I would feel better if somebody said to me later, hey, you serve on that committee, you authorize some money, and then you sort of changed it later. Nobody sort of knew about it except a few people in the room. Just, I don't know if it looks bad, but it sort of smells bad. I don't know.
Somebody
Is that a motion?
That's my 2 cents. Yeah, well, I'll make a motion that we approve the application that as it is before us. And as presented by the deputy chief.
The application for the radio.
For the 10.
I'm sorry, for the radios, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
I'm in favor.
I'd like to hear exactly what it is that we're voting on. But I've lost y'all completely. I don't know what happened.
Can she call us? Like, I think she'd do better on the phone, just like she said.
I'm in favor of purchasing the radio.
That's what
radio.
we were talking about. Perfect.
Is that what you're voting on? It's
Yep,
hard. And only that, I'm not gonna include the hose washers also. But I don't know what all y'all are talking about really, so it's hard to say. But I am under $1,000 for the radio, portable radios.
She's not.
And
And who else is on the board?
Right. I think that's what we agreed to, Sally.
That is what we agreed to, yes. All in favor.
I didn't hear anything. I can't see anything anymore. I don't know what's happening to the bleeding machine.
Do you want to call Richard's phone and go like talk to us that way? I feel like that might be better than through your computer.
I can't even hear what you just said, but I'm gonna try to get back on. It keeps taking up.
He's calling. I think we definitely proved that you're going to sell.
So I would ask for a point of clarification that since you thank you, you redid the way that we presented it.
Sure.
So
Yes.
Am I talking?
You know,
I don't know what it is.
No, she gave me one.
no, it's fine.
No, it's not just you.
That's your question. Sally, can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, so hold on, sure.
Do you want to clarify our vote? 'Cause
Yeah, go ahead. You wanna tell her?
I wanted to make sure that Sally voted for what she thinks she voted for with, and the motion was to approve $10,000 to purchase fire department radios.
As a new
Separately as a new request. Yeah, okay, thank you,
Perfect.
Sally. So thank you, but I wanted to clarify with the committee. We know that the hose washer purchase hasn't happened. We know that we're changing vendors at least, probably a direct purchase from the manufacturer, and we know that we're short of funds. For all those reasons, would the committee entertain us coming back with a revised proposal from something that you already approved a year ago?
I would say yes.
You can still say no at that time, right?
Right,
You
Yes, for now.
entertain it.
absolutely.
I don't know how to pay, and I think Mr. Manager over there might have found some magic money.
We may have it covered under insurance. fund. Next.
He'll be back.
We have a capital building reserve account for just those types of things, needs a new roof or whatever. With more than enough money in there to pay for it, but I think
How old is it?
insurance,
Yeah, no.
8 years. However long he's been, just about exactly the same.
Wow, okay.
So,
But it covers the report and the fire accident.
We moved in early January 2016, so the boiler is probably was manufactured and installed the fall before 15. So,
Wow.
it's. I'll be glad to see it now. Actually, it is now. I'm glad to see it.
We're not going to let Sam.
Nothing but It's one of those things, and I get the question a lot, and I know you got a meeting, sorry. Get the question a lot, it's only 7 or 8 years old, it's one of those things, you sign $1 million contract with somebody like Blaine Casey in this case. And there's specifications that say what a boiler needs to be. And you have engineers supposedly protecting you, and you have a HVAC contractor supposedly doing what the specs say, but that doesn't mean that we get to pick the installation method or the boiler nameplate date. We don't, it's one of those things that happens on $1 million purchase. And
Yeah. It's not big small.
but we get to, when you go out and replace it, like we just did, and you get, at that point, you get to have a lot of say, right? So I think we've got a much better solution now. But really, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Started at 4.
Yeah, he messed it up. Blame it on Richard.
I did.
I was thinking Jeff would be late.
Out of the garage and waiting.
Oh, man.
I got a lot done. Well,
It's all free, but I got a lot done. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And by the way, I should have said it's John is for it.
What?
John Bell is for that.
Oh, did he ask you to bring that? When
I
I
would
heard
have
that?
said, since you're not gonna be here, is there anything you want to tell me? He said he's for.
I'll bring
He
it.
doesn't know that we got it.
we usually do, we put her in last month.
Okay, discussion and action on Bill Main sponsorship.
Yeah, so this was a request brought to us really through Main Street Skowhegan. To be a municipal sponsor, a town sponsor of this event. It's a 2-day event. That's scheduled for June 7th and 8th in Skowhegan. In committee members' packets, I included last year's booklet of the event, and pretty much what it is, it's build Maine. It's to attract people and organizations that are focused on building Maine, whether that's through downtown development, real estate, municipal partners, and then they bring in all these collaborators to, well, as it's to showcase international, national, and local best practices, and then provide an opportunity for cross-disciplinary conversations among all of the people that are involved in the work of building Maine. It's a very well-attended event. It's local, and it's a $600 fee for us to be a sponsor.
I attended the event last year for the bank. And I sat in on a couple of the speeches and I thought it was beneficial, even though they were honestly, it was held in the new Bigelow building. Is it gonna be there this year?
No, it's in
Not online, is it?
an old something, the old newspaper bill. The other end of Main Street is. I don't know. Anyway, so included in the $600 sponsorship gets our logo list in all email communications on social media, on their website, in their program booklet as well. And then there'll be stuff there at the event that will be featured on. And then it also gives unlimited tickets for municipal employees, select board members, and planning board members. I bring it to you as a economic development opportunity, something that supports businesses in our community as an opportunity for them to go participate, but then also for people at the town level to be involved, in addition to the good visibility.
It says tickets to municipal employees, select board and planning board, how are businesses get tickets?
They can go on the website and purchase them, and I'm not sure exactly what the costs are. I was just kind of flipping through a few minutes ago. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Good time.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
There's nothing in the budget that would allow this kind of. It has to be through TIF.
It doesn't have to be. I mean, I will figure out a way to pay for it probably, but the linkage to economic development seems logical to come to TIF. I mean, the whole program is about regional economic development.
When is the event?
Build Maine.
When is it?
June 7th and 8th.
Oh,
Last year?
I went last year to the bank.
7th and 8th, I went down.
We had a lot of commercial people there. I didn't send them over there, but yes, I thought it was informative for the 2 people that I would listen to. They talked about the state that they lived in and like what their towns were about, and it's just a good, it was a referral for me, really. That's why I attended.
It's interesting that the small towns that are doing it would be a really small town doing it, that would probably stand out as they go that they. Make a motion that we sponsor it. $600.
I'll second that.
Because underneath it's not like that. Remember. All those in favor?
Yeah,
He's blowing on, sounds blowing on.
Sarah, are you there? $600. Right.
Where's the marketing?
our logo will be on any of the mailings that they do, will be on Facebook, any promotion that they do. We're there. It's not 1,000, but, maybe in a way that makes it not so. Are you ready?
No.
Sally? Were you a yes? $600. Yeah. Yeah. And John?
John did, okay.
And the next item is discussion revision of the design improvement program guidelines. Now, with the communication problem today and the absences, is this something we should table?
Yeah, because it didn't go out in people's packets, and with people attending remotely, I think it needs to get tabled.
But I think it's nice too, as we went through why the changes that you made, why you were making them.
Well, right, I was intending to do that today, and then when people couldn't show up in person, it makes it difficult.
So can I make a motion that we table that? So,
I'll make it for you. I move we table this.
I second it. All those in favor, any discussion or action with the people on the out of the world?
I'm good. I agree with tabling it.
Sally, do you agree with tabling the decide discussion? The decide guidelines, we'll discuss them when we've all had a chance to look at it. You can table that. Okay. Update on the Martin Stream Road parking lot project. John sent me a note on this and said that Janice Malik is working with Richard on this project, and Janet has enlisted state foresters to help. And with that, a couple hours later, I got a letter from Janet. Which, does everybody have that letter?
In their packets here today.
Janice wanted the letter put in the record. Brandy and Sally, do you have that letter?
Do I have what?
Do you have the letter from Janice Malik about the ash tree?
Yes, I do. Yep.
She would like that in the minutes. On the record, yeah, I mean, does she do that?
It'll get added to your pack.
But, you've written in before, emails and things have been.
I have.
Reading the record,
Yeah.
so that's what she's asking for.
Yeah, well, how about if we just move the admission of this to be added to the minutes of the meeting?
Thank you.
We can get a electronic copy.
Yeah, no,
I can scan that in for you. I sure can.
So I don't know that there's any action on this. This was an update. Janice is saying before that she saw online that the trails are going to open in the summer, and she's concerned, as are the forest people, that people not go over where the trees are, and she's saying create a barrier to prevent motorized vehicles from going onto the trail. The park, possibly use granite blocks or boulders or something. So before, she's asking for before the trail is open, some restrictions put in place so people can't just drive over. And with their environmental concerns. He also sees as an urgent need the placement of the sportsman's maintenance building and any porta potties on the side of the parking area or go away from the trail. The trail's on the left, so the building's on the right or the back.
We're just allocating funds, like her,
I don't think so, we haven't agreed to.
right, this is like a committee type of thing.
I think the main thing here is before anything opens, we have the correct things in place, not the have to choose. I think that's what I got to say.
That's what she's asking for, that's correct.
So who would make sure that happens?
Me,
Okay,
it really has nothing to do with TIF, unless TIF is throwing money at the project.
okay. Okay. We haven't allocated any money for that, have we? No,
And there's not much money associated with it.
I was so confused.
I had talked with them earlier. Or later last week about it, and I expect that the Sportsman's Association will be in front of you asking for some contribution to a building. I don't know when that would be, but I do expect that, so that it would house utility that would bring electricity for lighting and also surveillance of the area. And then the porta potties, that is planned for down in that back right off from the parking. That's still not finalized yet, but we had hoped that Kobe or UMF or Thomas or KBCC would partner with us to take this on as a project, and we just haven't been able to get support from any of the universities. So it's now at the University of Richmond, where I'm trying to figure out the best way to label the attractions, the flora, fauna of it, in ways that people have been doing. There are organizations, the arboretums across the country, and seeing what they kind of have, then working with Janice to develop educational panels, both about nature, but also about the history of the dog and quarry and the trees and things like that. So that's where money's going to come into play, that we'll be back to ask TIF for. And it's not going to be in the name of enhancing a park, it's going to be in the name of enhancing an area along the recreational trail that would attract people to Norridgewock. Because that's the only way it would get funded. And so through TIF funding, and I don't have another revenue source for that. So that's kind of how we're looking there. And then in the short term, obviously, there would be boulders set at the top towards the entrance to limit the access down towards the trees. Then we're looking at improvements to walkways, cleaning up rock, things like that down in the 3D area.
It's great letter, I think, reserve parking spaces for trail users is a good thing, so you're not going there to walk on the trail with people when they just.
Yeah, so we can't do that because of the funding source for the parking lot. And I think candidly, it would be observed about like library parking at the school, that it looks nice, but it's not really.
I'm just gonna add her letter and I'll scan it in with my notes, and I'm gonna put Sportsman might come back for a request in the future. It's really not. TIF funds haven't been allocated, so it really doesn't.
And you're probably gonna want to put something in that. But we don't have to get into that.
I think, yeah, largely what they're looking to do is going to be granted.
So the next step is for Janice, I think we can talk to you.
Yes.
Okay, and then do we need to be informed? Maybe it's as residents or citizens. We didn't get our news, I don't think, from the Sportsman's Facebook.
I don't think there has been news coming from the Facebook page.
That's what she posted in the letter, that's actually it was an open, that's no news I did.
Well, that's news to me in the state of Maine. So I know that the date for the trestle to be completed in their pre-construction documents was June 30th, but as far as the trail opening, there is no trail opening date. I can't be held responsible for other people's social media accounts. Does not really represent the state or the town.
Yeah, I mentioned it in the letter.
There's no validation to the third party.
So the next step for Janice is to talk to you, and Janice, that was a nice start. I think it was nice that she's stepping up and doing. Okay, update on kayak new storage structure. John pledges to do that this summer. Questions if the money is still available. I don't know what.
It was, and there was a renewed motion to take the cap for the expense off. He had given a number, and then there was a meeting after that when there was a delay, and the committee voted to just say, make one. And whatever the cost was, you were willing to cover it.
That should work. Is there other business?
There's no.
The only thing I had was the advisory guidelines for the committee that John asked to be read. That was circulated in people's packets.
That. Isn't that part of the design review?
No. This, he asked if after the minutes are approved, I would suggest reading the sheet entitled TIF Advisory Committee Guidelines.
Go for it.
He just, I mean, I'm not gonna read the whole document, it was included in your packet. He asked that the committee review the goals. And that we reiterate the fifth bullet under goals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Support desirable projects that are otherwise financially infeasible. So in your spare time, go back and reread that if you haven't already, before the next meeting.
That's another one that we're gonna table.
No, there's no business item. He had asked that I, as the chair, he asked that I include this in your packet. And then he sent the note to Becky that after the minutes were read to read that. I'm not gonna read that.
I skipped it just because I thought it was design. I didn't really, he said it in big whole letter that the most important goal is that fifth bullet point. So I think there will be some discussion about that, because I know. For the goal, I mean, maybe you could tell us something about that. The fifth bullet point is support desirable projects that are otherwise financially infeasible.
I think we wait for John to explain
He,
next
he
meeting.
he emailed me 4 or 5 emails in one day about things to put into the packets.
Okay.
And that was one of them.
Okay,
I
so
didn't-
You don't know what's behind that.
I don't know.
Although we will review and discuss next meeting. John.
What else? I think we need to be in the room. Hopefully, the next meeting will be.
Next meeting ever.
April 20.
April 25th at 4 p.m.
That's right. Poor Jeff.
Sorry.
So, we're adjourning. Sally?
Yes.
25th.
We're adjourning.
Bye, Brandy. Thank you.
Mark.
Thank you. Have a good night.
I am.